Oh, I was gonna, dude, this game is destroying my life. We were gonna look over those Minecraft accusations.
Minecraft accusations?
Oh.
Yeah, people like wrote up like some huge ass research project on.
Oh, the Dream thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, huh?
Do you know who Dream is?
Yeah.
He
What? How do you know who he is and not know about this insane drama?
Yeah, he had, I think, a world record speedrun of Minecraft, or at least a really high.
Shit.
And then people thought that it was fake because the trades that he did with the piglins were like absurdly lucky. Like,
Yeah, it was past 99th percentile.
Yeah.
I looked at the I was looking at some of the data work, but I don't know if the stats are taken correctly or something. What was Dream's response?
I don't know what his response was, but the write up is super long, and it's like,
Yeah, but just looking at some of the data, it seems impossible that like he could have actually gotten those trades sequentially without having speedran it like billions of times.
Yeah, for context, basically the accusation is that he manipulated the RNG of the piglin trades to give him more ender pearls than you would otherwise get from even a really, really lucky trade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what the the specifics of the like document were, but just from looking at the document, it's like the most professionally made like Twitch streamer like related document that I've ever seen. Oh yeah, there's a YouTube video going over the document if you want to watch it. It was just linked in chat. Yeah, the document is 29 pages long. Jesus.
I mean, I know nothing about the drama, but like crazy RNG like that like does happen. I know that there's a Resident Evil speedrun that everybody agrees just can't ever be beaten because the RNG that the person got is like 1 in a trillion or some crazy shit.
Really, 1 in a trillion, or was it like 1 in like a million? Because those are two very, very different numbers. Like 1 in a million is incredibly rare, and it's believable, but 1 in a trillion is like.
I forget. It's a YouTube video that I watched like forever ago, so I don't know. Is RNG over the day, not just the run? What does that mean? Isn't it just one run that's in question, or are they saying are there multiple runs that have sketchy stats?
I'm pretty sure it's just one run. Oh, you know, it'd be interesting if you had Kogasa on, because this is a lot of math stuff.
It's finally his time to shine.
It's his calling.
6 days of runs? Oh shit. Well then that's way different. One lucky run is one thing.
I can hop in this one to give you a rundown of the Dream shit.
On October 16th, speedrunner MineCrevenger posted data he collected from 6 consecutive live streams of 1.16 random seed glitchless speedruns by Dream from earlier that month. The data he collected was reviewed by several members of the mod team, and it showed that random piglin barters performed throughout these streams yielded significantly higher ender pearl drop rates, Dream getting an astounding 42 successful trades out of 262 possible trades. These results are exceptional, as they are not only substantially greater than their expected values, but perhaps more notably, substantially greater than the rates from other top-level runners. But just how rare are Dream's trades? To answer this, we first need to look at some basic statistics, specifically at these models called binomial distributions. The goal of a binomial distribution is to show how likely a random event happens if that event only happens a certain percentage of the time. Let's take a look at a classic example, flipping a coin. If you go to flip a coin right now, it's pretty likely that you'll get something like 3 heads in a row, or at the very least something that doesn't fit the 50-50 ratio immediately. Taking this to the extreme, getting something like 37 heads in a row would be pretty rare, while getting something like 17 heads mixed with 20 tails seems about average. What binomial distributions do is quantify just how lucky any one of these scenarios is. Let's take the case where you flip 10 coins and want to see how likely getting any particular number of heads is. Here you can see for each number of heads there's a certain height, which represents the probability that after 10 flips, that's the number of heads there are. So for 6 heads in 10 flips, this is the chance of it happening. But say if you want to look at the chance of getting 6 heads or better, you can add all of these probabilities to get the combined chance. Every event that either happens or doesn't because of some probability can be modeled through binomial distributions. This is great since we want to understand the odds of getting repeated pearl trades from piglins. The major difference between pearls and coin flips is that pearl trades only have a 4.7 chance of happening, which shifts the distribution to the left considerably and makes the slope a lot steeper. But before we get to Dream, let's take a look at another top runner. In fact, he's the luckiest runner we could find, Illumina. Over the course of 5 streams in September and early October, Illumina was able to trade 323 gold with piglins in his RSG attempts. From that 323 gold, he got 20 pearl trades. Let's model this with our binomial distribution to see just how lucky Illumina got. Plugging Illumina's trading results into the formula, we get an approximate value of 0.09. This means that there's only a 9% chance of getting 20 or more pearl trades with 323 gold, placing Illumina above 91% of other runners. This is really lucky, but Illumina most certainly did not cheat to get these odds. These kinds of numbers are expected when you think of the total number of runners doing attempts. For instance, say about 1,000. Since 1 in 11 of those runners will get comparable luck, about 90 other people did just as well or better than Illumina. Did Illumina get pretty lucky? Yes. Although any statistician will tell you that 0.09 is just a small statistical deviation. But that's just for 20 in 323. Let's take a look at Dream's odds. This isn't exactly a good look. Across 6 streams, Dream bartered 262 times and got 42 pearl trades, which when plugged into the formula comes in at 1 in 177 billion. It might be a bit difficult to visualize just how unlikely these odds are, so we thought it would be useful to put Dream's rates in context
1 in
with
what
other
billion?
speedrunners. So members of our community watched through hours of
177.
runs to realize just how unlikely these comes
1
in
in
at
177
billion.
Damn, okay.
It might be a bit difficult to visualize just how unlikely these odds are, so we thought it would be useful to put Dream's rates in context with other speedrunners. So members of our community watched through hours of runs to gather data the exact same way Dream's was collected, and we created this graph which shows barters against pearl trades. Dream is just miles above anything remotely comparable or even reasonable, assuming his rates are the vanilla values. This information has been public to an extent for over a month now, and Dream has released a document trying to refute the idea that he cheated. The main thing he's saying is that the data collected was biased in some way, so the extremely high figures in the billions aren't correct. So let's take a look at some of these supposed biases. The first major argument that Dream has pushed is that the data is biased because of a stopping rule. He's saying that since he stopped streaming runs because he got a personal best time, that was good because it was lucky, that last data point will be skewed upwards. This isn't the entirety of how stopping rules work, but it is just what Dream mentioned. This is a quite valid concern, and the way to correct for it is actually pretty complex, and we go into it in the paper. Correcting for this bias, the numbers go from 1 in 170 billion to the low number of 1 in 82 billion. Another point that Dream has pushed is that the data was cherry-picked with some selection bias across his 24 hours of footage, or was selected across runners because of having more noticeable RNG. The argument essentially boiled down to, they noticed that my luck was really high, so when they investigated it and found out it was really high, it doesn't count because it was biased. You can check the paper for a rebuttal, but we effectively examined the probability of this happening even if we checked multiple runners or streams first, and the bias wasn't nearly strong enough to refute.
Okay, so when you're on the level of like 1 in 87 billion, how lucky does something have to be for us to just mark it off as cheating? Like, what about a 1 in a million? Like, because if we have thousands of speedrunners or hundreds of speedrunners running hundreds of times, what are the chances that we would expect to see like a 1 in a million, 1 in a billion like result?
The idea that the odds were possibly tampered with. Look, we're the first to admit that the data
Oh yeah, that argument can be completely defeated if he's seeing this luck on multiple runs. If he sees luck like this on like more than one run, then it's like, yeah.
is actually biased, but it's nowhere near as biased as it would have to be to disqualify the evidence. The thing with real-world data is that it's pretty much always going to be biased in some way, but the field of statistics was made to interpret this stuff nonetheless, and account for all the errors. In our case, we've overcorrected the bias far enough so that we're biasing in favor of Dream, and we're still getting pretty crazy numbers.
One thing, I might not be listening because I'm reading chat. I hope but when they mention a bias in statistics, like they have like when we talk about like a bias here, like we have like certain definitions. It's not like it's not like the contemporary definition of like oh, bias, like I don't like him, so I'm gonna like make some of the numbers up or whatever, right? The biasing has more to do like what numbers do we take, what do we take into account when we take these numbers? Like it's a little bit more technical than just saying like, oh, like I'm biased against this guy and I recognize that. Hopefully everybody realizes that.
And we haven't even gotten to the strongest evidence so far. Guess what else has a random drop chance in speedruns? Blaze rods. Anyone want to guess what Dream's blaze luck was? 1 in 113 billion. Again, we go into this in much more.
Now, if that happened on the same run, at that point, I think it's just multiplicative, right? Like a 1 in 100 billion and then a 180 billion happening in the same run is just multiplied together for the odds on that, isn't it? Like,
more detail in the paper, and we don't have much time to talk about it here.
it's over 6 days of runs.
But the blazes pretty much follow the same logic as the pearls.
Oh, okay, so this wasn't just on a single one, but it did happen in another one. Okay, gotcha, okay.
Here's a graph showing the other runners, and it's pretty obvious they haven't learned how to get Dream luck yet. Now, this really isn't looking too good for Dream. Biasing in favor of him, giving very favorable circumstances, and assuming the best, the odds for all this happening is still around 1 in 678 trillion. Well, that is before we account for p-hacking. Basically saying, let's be generous and say there are 90 ways to...
Wait, so hold on, so this isn't technically correct. Wait, is it? In order to get this figure, wouldn't you have to, it would have to be multiplicative over a single run, right? Over different runs, it's still really bad, by the way, but I don't think that this value is arrived at correctly, unless I'm not understanding something. It is Destiny? It's over well, hold on, let me think. What are the chances of you... You're taking the data over all the runs as a whole? Each of those odds are the chance. Oh man, dude, fuck! I never took a formal stats class. Stats was always the math you took in high school when you wanted to be an underachiever, but you wanted to pad your GPA.
So I think the thing is, you're thinking of this by the run, but they're completely ignoring.
They're doing they're doing a holistic take of everything.
And they looked at every piglin trade he did over 6 days and every blaze he killed over 6 days. So you can just treat those 6 days.
So they're okay. That makes more sense. Okay, that's probably fine. Yeah. Okay.
To investigate 2 types
Makes
of
more
RNG.
sense.
If someone malicious was looking to cherry pick data, then they would just choose the most unlikely one out of the 90. So, since we'd want to correct for this potential bias, we divide 678 trillion by 90 and get a value of 1 in 7 trillion, which, as you may notice, is still a ridiculously large number. At this point, I think that Dream would probably want us to account for a second talking point. The game is glitched. The game is glitched, or Java's weird argument, is something that Dream wrote about in his response, and he claims that Java randomness could just be biased in some way. Dream...
True, but you would expect the other streamers to have similar events happen then, right?
Despite being a coder, doesn't exactly know what he's talking about here. On our team are some really experienced experts on Java randomness, especially applied to Minecraft, and they have all found that there's no way that Java could have just accidentally done any of this. The way Java works is that anytime a random action occurs, it scrambles some numbers internally, so the next random result will look different. The thing with Minecraft is that there are only a few different random generators that account for all the random outcomes, so each action is pretty contingent on the entire environment. I'm sure a question that some people might be asking is that if the per luck and the blaze luck was high, couldn't that mean that both use the same faulty random generator? The problem here is that bartering and blazes actually use distinct generators. Blazes use the entity random, while barters use the world random, which mean they're completely separate and have no way of interacting. Let's take a closer look at pearl trades, for example, though. While bartering, the player's in the nether. What else is in the nether? Lava. Lava also happens to use the world generator, just like the pearls, and there are thousands upon thousands of lava blocks constantly shifting the random generator all over the place, which makes it an extremely entropic environment. Since there is this entropy background radiation, in the time between pearl trades, the RNG is completely scrambled, and the amount of scrambling is random itself, which makes it impossible to have any continued interplay between strings of barters. Additionally, there are just some mathematical reasons that mean pearl drops can't influence one another, so there's really no way these numbers could just be the code's fault. This begs the question, since it looks like Dream might have cheated, how could he do it? Considering he was streaming at the time, left a lot of people with the idea that there was no way he could have faked a run. This probably stems from the idea that most faked runs in the past were done via splicing, which is pretty difficult to do when you're live streaming and interacting with chat. But the most likely scenario is that Dream used some mod or data pack behind the scenes in such a way that would be undetectable to a naive viewer.
Yeah.
This becomes a bit more suspicious when you consider that Dream was using Fabric, which is a mod loader that a lot of the community uses for performance increases. From Dream's log files, we can see that he had enabled Sodium, a perfectly legal FPS boost mod like Optifine, and the Fabric API, a mod creation tool. Dream denies that he has any knowledge of how to create mods or do modification with Fabric. We asked Dream for his mods folder specifically so we could check for any modification, but he was unable to provide any evidence since he says he deletes the contents of his mods folder pretty regularly. In Dream's statement, he's acknowledged this and said there is no way to 100% disprove that he didn't cheat by modifying files. Still, there are many people out there who are probably wondering, why would Dream cheat? Personally, I have no clue. It seems like a pretty stupid thing to do, but we can speculate and look at previous cheaters for information. By the way, this section is not supposed to be a part of the objective analysis, and has no influence on the mod team's decision, but considering how Dream Twitter reacted when the news first broke, combined with Dream heavily focusing on this point himself, we thought it would be worse not to address it. Dream is on the record for hating 1.16 speedruns, considering the enormous amount of luck involved. In the past, he had gotten frustrated with just how lucky the standards for world records had gotten, openly contesting the validity of Corbanus' world record, which was verified as the first sub 15-minute time. Before coming back to live streaming speedruns, Dream stated that he would stop running 1.16 and focus on 1.15 if he came back at all. And honestly, I agree with him. The RNG is pretty ridiculous for these categories. But just keep this anti-RNG sentiment in mind though, as we take a look at the precedent in other games. Carl Jobs is a speedrunning documentarian, and he's a lot of experience covering illegitimate speedruns and their perpetrators. Here's an excerpt from a Carl video that I thought summed up the historical context really well. It may seem counterintuitive, but you'd be surprised at how often some of the best players inevitably try to fake runs. You might think that having the talent to achieve a world record would make somebody less susceptible to cheating, but it often works against them. Having talent tends to make people feel entitled, and when the game they play doesn't give them the luck they need, they become increasingly frustrated. On top of this, having talent and deep knowledge of a game makes you a better cheater. The fact that better players make better cheaters means that arguments such as, he's such a good player, he has no reason to cheat, are fundamentally flawed. When Billy Mitchell and Todd Rogers were exposed as frauds, this was one of the most common arguments their defenders tried to make. If anything, having a better understanding of a game makes you more likely to cheat. This is why at the top level, proof standards are so important. I know the idea of Dream cheating can be unsettling to as many fans out there. I mean, I like the guy too. At the very least, maybe this does pose a plausible motive. Even if Dream wasn't looking for any placement results, getting good RNG is just way more fun and entertaining to watch. You can't really fault the guy for wanting a more enjoyable casual experience. The only problem is if he was passing it off as an officially legitimate speedrun. Again, our collective decision as moderators is just based on the objective math, not the theories or feelings around it. But by every metric we've tried, it seems that Dream's odds are just unexplainable. In closing, I want to address one important point raised by Dream. As Dream likes to point out, just because the odds of his luck happening are in the trillions, it doesn't mean that's the same chance of him cheating. I mean, with Illumina's considerably lucky 92% odds, it doesn't mean that there was a 92% chance of him cheating. But the thing that Dream misses is that the odds for the event and the odds for cheating are still correlated. If you perform an infinitesimally unlikely event, then you can be extremely confident that something went wrong that allowed it to happen. Just because something is possible doesn't mean that it's at all feasible. Here the numbers are just so large that they outweigh any conceivable subjective opinion. I'm sure that lots of Dream fans out there will naturally defend Dream, despite the evidence. After all, the more confident you are that Dream wouldn't cheat, the less this evidence should convince you. But you would need to be almost impossibly certain that Dream wouldn't cheat in order for this not to be convincing evidence. Even giving Dream the benefit of the doubt as much as possible, as moderators, there's no real option other than to deem these runs as illegitimate.
Apparently, he does not delete mod folders regularly. What he had were multiple mod profiles, and during the investigation, he ended up deleting his specific 1.16 speedrun profile because he was frustrated with the investigation. Wait, what? What?
He wrote a
getting
district.
mad at a subpoena, so you start shredding files.
Yeah, what? Okay.
He wrote a district. Yo, dude, Minecraft fans are such freaks, dude. They need to stop. There's a video on it.
Wow.
The binomial distribution? What? Dude? What is going on?
Wait, I can't tell if this is a joke. It's a lot of work and the paper is funny, but I'm pretty sure binomial distributions are like day zero stats class. That's like the teacher tells you, like, read about these before we begin class over the summer. Like, isn't that like really basic stat shit? I could be wrong. I don't know. All right. Why does you think that Hassan is a champagne socialist make you insult on every corner now, but it didn't before the manifesto incident? I'm not even insulting that much. Jesus, chill. It's just funny to be like binomial distribution. Like if you're like some fucking woke bro on social sciences and shit, like it's a really, really, really basic stats term. Like that's like the equivalent of like you're reading an abstract on virology and you're like, nuclear layers? Well, I don't know what that is. It's just like a really weird thing to say when you're somebody that's claiming to like be so woke and read so much shit, and I don't know. It's just a weird thing. I don't know. Like stats is like a pretty important part of. I'm pretty sure stats is like literally the foundation of all social science, right? Like you can't really get anywhere without like a stats, some kind of stats understanding. So like it just seems weird to not know. Yeah. For those who don't have his Reddit, this is Dream Response to Dream not being verified. Oh my god, talk about not caring that much. If you were in Dream's position, would you admit it? No, you don't have to. It's a stats game, actually. You should just deny it forever and just never say, oh, I just got really, really lucky and now I'm getting fucked because of my luck. Like, and just end it at that. They can never prove it, right? Like, why would you ever admit to something like that? When no one can ever prove you fault. That's like some deathbed shit, all right? If Dream was innocent, he would have submitted his logs. It's pretty silly that he's like, oh, like I got so frustrated, I just deleted all the evidence. That's a pretty big meme. That's a big meme response right there.
I mean, it's I don't know if you would call it circumstantial, but from what I can remember earlier content is that like his YouTube videos were based around modding Minecraft. Like he and his friend would mod the game, which is
that's pretty much all of his content, I'm pretty sure.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.
The teens are going, oh my god, I feel so betrayed. I can't believe Dream cheated. And the little kids are going, no, you poo-poo head.